Marry my daughter, the alien queen declared and chose me as her human groom. The unexpected decree. The crystalline spires of Zephyria's capital glimmered in the light of the dual suns as Kai Novak adjusted the collar of his formal diplomatic attire. After 6 years as Earth's foremost xenodiplomat, he had visited dozens of alien worlds, but the beauty of the Nixian Empire's throne world still took his breath away. "Ambassador Novak, they're ready for you," said Len, his assistant, scrolling through a data pad. "Remember, the Nixians value directness but consider emotional displays unprofessional. And don't forget, no extended eye contact with the Empress, no touching of royal artifacts, and always accept refreshments with both hands." Kai finished with a smile. "This isn't my first diplomatic reception, Lin." What it was, however, was perhaps his most important. The Nixian Empire controlled the largest reserves of quantum crystals in the quadrant, essential for Earth's new generation of star drives. Without a formal alliance, humanity's expansion throughout the stars would grind to a halt within a decade. The grand doors to the reception hall parted, revealing a cavernous space of polished obsidian and floating light orbs. Nixian nobles lined the path to the throne, their purple skin adorned with intricate bioluminescent markings that pulsed with their emotions. At the far end sat Empress Thalara, her tall frame draped in flowing silver robes that complemented her deep violet complexion. Kai approached and bowed precisely at the correct angle, not too deep to suggest servitude, not too shallow to suggest disrespect. "Ambassador Kai Novak of Earth," announced the court herald, voice echoing through the chamber. "Representative of the Interplanetary Alliance, bearer of the Sirius Medal of Peace." "Your Imperial Majesty," Kai greeted. "I bring greetings from Earth and the sincere desire for friendship between our peoples." The Empress studied him with eyes the color of distant nebulae. "Your reputation precedes you, Ambassador. They say you negotiated the Procyon Accord when all others had failed. I merely found common ground where others saw only differences, Your Majesty." A subtle smile curved the Empress's lips. "An admirable trait." She gestured to her right, where a younger Nixian female sat watching the proceedings with obvious skepticism. "My daughter, Princess Ilara." Kai bowed again. The princess's markings flashed briefly with what he recognized as annoyance, before she inclined her head slightly in acknowledgement. Her deep purple skin seemed to shimmer in the ambient light, and her eyes held an intensity that suggested a formidable intellect. "The princess has recently completed her studies in interspecies relations at our Imperial Academy," the Empress continued. "She has a particular interest in human culture." "An interest might be overstating it, Mother," Princess Ilara said, her melodic voice carrying a subtle edge. "I find humans unpredictable, though I admit their adaptability has certain advantages." Before Kai could respond to what felt like a backhanded compliment, the Empress rose from her throne. The entire court immediately fell silent. "Citizens of the Empire, honored guests," she began, her voice resonating with authority. "For generations, the Nixian people have prospered through strength and careful alliances. Today I announce a new bond that will secure our future among the stars." Kai maintained his diplomatic smile while mentally reviewing potential treaty points. Perhaps the Empress was ready to move forward with the quantum crystal trade agreement more quickly than expected. "Ambassador Kai Novak has proven himself a worthy representative of humanity," the Empress continued. "Therefore I decree that he shall marry my daughter, Princess Ilara, uniting our worlds through royal blood." The silence in the hall became absolute. Kai's diplomatic training was the only thing that kept his expression neutral as shock coursed through him. Beside the throne, Princess Ilara had risen to her feet, her bioluminescent markings flashing in patterns that suggested outrage. "Mother," she said, voice tight with controlled emotion. This was not discussed. The Empress's expression remained serene. "The future of our empire is not subject to discussion, daughter. It is decided with wisdom and foresight." Kai's mind raced through protocols and precedents, finding none that covered this situation. Marriage to an alien princess. The treaty negotiations mentioned nothing about personal unions, Your Majesty. He began carefully. "I'm deeply honored by your consideration, however. Diplomatic marriages aren't standard practice in Earth's protocols. Perhaps we could discuss alternative arrangements for strengthening our alliance." The Empress's gaze hardened slightly. "Are you refusing a royal decree, Ambassador?" The court murmured. and Kai recognized the dangerous diplomatic territory he was entering. Offending the Empress could set relations back years. Not refusing, Your Majesty. Seeking clarification on the terms and implications, he replied smoothly. Princess Ilara stepped forward. Her composure recovered, though her markings still pulsed rapidly. Mother, while I respect your wisdom, binding me to a human without consultation disrespects my position as heir. Ambassador Novak clearly shares my reservations. For a moment, tension filled the chamber. Then the Empress smiled. Your concerns are noted. You both shall have one lunar cycle to become acquainted before the formal engagement ceremony. I trust this time will alleviate your reservations. She gestured to an aide. Prepare the ambassador's quarters in the east wing, near the princess's chambers. With that, the audience was clearly over. As court officials ushered him away, Kai caught Princess Ilara's gaze. In that brief moment of eye contact, he saw not just the annoyance and resistance he expected, but something else, calculation, intelligence, and perhaps a hint of curiosity. One thing was certain. His mission to Zephyria had just become infinitely more complicated. Whispers of the court. Kai paced the polished floor of his assigned chambers, dictating notes into his personal communicator. Day 3 on Zephyria? The Empress remains firm on her decree. Interplanetary Alliance headquarters still hasn't responded to my urgent request for guidance. Princess Ilara continues to avoid direct interaction whenever possible. He paused at the window, gazing at the swirling lavender clouds that perpetually embraced the spires of the Nixian palace. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. The reminder for the afternoon's cultural exchange session. End recording, he sighed, straightening his jacket. These mandatory compatibility sessions with Princess Ilara were proving to be exercises in elegant hostility. The royal gardens sprawled in tiered crystalline formations, where flora from across the empire grew in carefully maintained environments. Princess Ilara waited by a pool of luminescent liquid that reflected the shifting colors of her skin. Today, her purple complexion carried undertones of azure, indicating, Kai had learned, deep contemplation. Ambassador, she acknowledged, not looking up from the data tablet she studied. You're punctual at least, Princess, he bowed slightly. I understand punctuality is valued in Nixian culture. Understanding cultural values and embodying them are different matters, she replied, finally meeting his gaze. Tell me, do humans typically accept being bartered like trade goods? Kai settled onto the bench across from her. We don't. Just as I suspect Nixian princesses don't appreciate being matched without consultation. Something flickered across her features. Surprise. Perhaps at his directness, then we find ourselves in agreement for once. She set her tablet aside. Mother has never been this impulsive. There must be more to her decision than strengthening diplomatic ties. I've been wondering the same, Kai admitted. The quantum crystal trade agreement would benefit both our peoples without requiring personal sacrifices. Ilara's markings pulsed briefly. Is the thought of marriage to me such a sacrifice, Ambassador? There was a challenge in her tone, but something else too. Vulnerability, carefully disguised. The sacrifice would be mutual, Princess. Neither of us chose this, he leaned forward. But perhaps instead of resisting separately, we might better understand the Empress's motivations by working together. For the first time since their introduction, Ilara's expression softened. A tactical alliance, Ambassador? Kai, he corrected with a small smile. If we're discussing tactical alliances, perhaps formality can be set aside. Kai, she tested the name, her accent giving it a melodic quality. You may call me Ilara when we're not in formal settings. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of several court officials, led by a tall Nixian male whose elaborate markings identified him as Lord Thexus, the Imperial Chamberlain. Princess, Ambassador, he greeted, his tone overly pleasant. I trust your cultural exchange is productive? The Empress wishes to invite you both to tonight's celestial alignment celebration. It's quite romantic. The emphasis on the final word wasn't subtle. Ilara's markings flashed with irritation. We shall attend, she said coolly. The ambassador should experience all aspects of Nixian culture during his stay. After the officials departed, Ilara turned to Kai with determination in her eyes. Tonight will be an opportunity. Court gatherings are rife with politics and secrets. If we appear to be warming to one another, perhaps those who know Mother's true intentions will reveal something useful. Pretend to enjoy each other's company? Kai asked, one eyebrow raised. A diplomatic performance, Ilara clarified, though her markings pulsed in a pattern Kai hadn't seen before. Nothing more. The celebration transformed the palace's central dome into a breathtaking observatory. The ceiling had become transparent, revealing Zephyria's rings and moons aligning in a phenomenon that occurred once every 60 years. Kai found himself genuinely awestruck by the celestial display. Your expression is... Ilara began as she approached, offering him a crystal goblet of iridescent liquid. Undiplomatically transparent? He suggested. Refreshingly genuine, she finished. She had changed into formal attire that accentuated the elegant curves of her figure, the fabric seemingly woven from starlight itself. Most visitors pretend appreciation without truly feeling it. Beauty transcends cultural differences, Kai said, accepting the drink. Their fingers brushed momentarily, and he noticed her markings ripple in response. On Earth, we have aurora borealis, dancing lights in our polar skies. They remind me of your bioluminescence. A poetic observation from a diplomat. A smile touched her lips. Perhaps there's more to you than political calculation. As the evening progressed, their performance of gradually warming relations became less performative. Kai found himself genuinely interested in Ilara's perspectives on interstellar relations, while she seemed fascinated by Earth's diverse cultural traditions. They're watching us, Ilara murmured during a traditional Nixian spiral dance that had them moving in synchronized patterns. Lord Thexus and the Empress's advisory council. They seem pleased. Should we be concerned? Kai asked, his hand correctly positioned against hers as they moved through the steps she had hastily taught him. I'm not certain. Her eyes met his. But I've discovered something. Tomorrow, Mother is meeting with the Genetic Compatibility Commission. It's unusual, typically reserved for what? For ensuring the viability of royal offspring. Her voice was barely audible. Whatever her plan, it extends beyond our lifetimes. The music crescendoed, and their dance brought them closer than protocol typically allowed. Kai became acutely aware of the warmth radiating from Ilara's purple skin, the subtle floral scent that surrounded her, the intelligent depth in her eyes. We should continue this discussion privately, he suggested as the dance concluded. Too many ears here. As they made their excuses and walked together through the less populated corridors of the palace, Kai realized something had shifted. What had begun as a tactical alliance now felt like something more complex, a shared purpose, perhaps even the beginning of trust. At the junction where their paths would separate to their respective chambers, Ilara hesitated. Kai, she said softly, if Mother is indeed planning for future generations, we may face more pressure than anticipated. The court will expect evidence of compatibility. The implication hung between them, creating a tension neither had anticipated when forming their alliance. One challenge at a time, Kai replied gently. First we discover the truth. Then we decide our response together. Ilara's markings pulsed in a pattern he was beginning to recognize as approval. Together, she agreed, the word carrying weight beyond their immediate circumstances. As she disappeared down her corridor, Kai found himself watching longer than diplomacy required, wondering if their pretense might someday become something neither of them had anticipated. The Crimson Nebula incident. You're certain this excursion is necessary? Kai asked, studying the flight path displayed on the Royal Shuttle's navigation system. The Crimson Nebula seems an unusual destination for a diplomatic cultural exchange. Ilara's fingers danced across the control panel, her movements confident and precise. Mother's unexpected scheduling of this journey is suspicious, I admit. But the nebula houses the ancient meditation temples of my ancestors. It would be disrespectful to refuse the pilgrimage. 2 weeks had passed since their conversation at the Celestial Alignment celebration. Their investigation into the Empress's motives had yielded little beyond rumors and political speculation, but their working relationship had evolved into something approaching friendship. Besides, Ilara added with a sideways glance, I'm a certified pilot. Are you worried about my capabilities, Ambassador? The teasing lilt in her voice drew a smile from Kai. Not at all, Princess. I'm merely questioning the timing. Your mother's sudden insistence that we undertake a 3-day journey alone seems convenient. Convenient for whom? Ilara's markings rippled with amusement. Those who wish us to form a genuine bond, or those who might benefit from potential disaster? Not all the court welcomed the proposed union. Lord Thexus had been overtly supportive, but others, particularly those aligned with rival noble houses, made little effort to disguise their disapproval of an alien entering the royal lineage. Both possibilities concern me, Kai admitted. The shuttle broke atmosphere, revealing the stunning vastness of space. Zephyria receded behind them, its violet rings forming a celestial halo. It's beautiful, Kai murmured. From this perspective, you can almost forget the political machinations. Ilara's expression softened. That's why I love piloting. Up here, boundaries seem so arbitrary. She paused, then asked with genuine curiosity, what is Earth like from orbit? Blue and green and swirled with white clouds. Some say it looks like a marble, small enough to hold in your hand but containing everything we've ever known. You miss it, she observed. Parts of it. The ocean near my childhood home, spring in the mountain forests. He turned to her. What about you? Have you traveled beyond Nixian space? Their conversation flowed easily as the shuttle journeyed toward the nebula, transitioning from diplomatic exchange to personal history. Kai learned of Ilara's complex relationship with her mother, her passion for xenobiology, and her concerns about leadership. In turn, he shared stories of his diplomatic misadventures, his sister's research on Mars, and his own doubts about balancing duty with personal fulfillment. We're approaching the nebula's outer boundary, Ilara announced hours later. The view screen filled with swirling crimson gases, shot through with gold and amber tendrils. The temple complex orbits within the stellar nursery, new stars forming amid ancient wisdom. Rather poetic, don't you think? Before Kai could respond, warning lights flashed across the control panel. Energy signature detected, the shuttle's computer announced. Configuration unknown. Approach vector indicates. The rest was lost in the sudden jolt that threw them forward as something struck the shuttle's shields. Pirates? Kai asked, securing his harness. Ilara's markings flashed with alarm as her fingers worked the controls. Impossible. This region is protected by Imperial. Another impact rocked the shuttle. Evasive maneuvers, she muttered, more to herself than to Kai. The shuttle dove into the nebula, gases swirling around them as Ilara navigated through the cosmic cloud. Proximity alerts blared as their pursuer followed, weapon systems charging again. Diplomatic shuttles aren't armed, Ilara explained tensely, but the nebula's radiation should interfere with their targeting systems if I can reach the denser regions. A third blast caught them, and this time the impact was followed by the screech of tearing metal. Warning indicators flooded the cockpit display. Hull breach in the aft section, the computer reported. Life support compromised. Emergency protocols engaged. Can we reach the temple complex? Kai asked, already accessing the emergency equipment locker. Ilara's expression was grim. Not before life support fails. There's a survey outpost on one of the stellar fragments within the nebula, if I can land there. The next minutes blurred into a chaos of alarms, sudden maneuvers, and the constant fear of another attack. Ilara piloted with remarkable skill, using the nebula's dense gas clouds for cover while navigating toward their only hope of survival. The landing, if it could be called that, was violent, but controlled. The shuttle skidded across the rocky surface of a planetoid barely large enough to hold it, coming to rest at a precarious angle against a jutting formation of crystalline rock. Are you injured? Ilara asked immediately, releasing her harness and turning to Kai. He took mental inventory before answering. Nothing serious, you? She touched a place above her brow where violet blood had begun to seep. Superficial. We should secure survival equipment before the shuttle's systems fail completely. Outpost proved to be little more than a reinforced shelter with basic supplies intended for emergency use rather than extended habitation. As night fell on the tiny planetoid, the crimson glow of the nebula cast everything in blood-tinged light. They sat side by side on the shelter's floor, backs against the wall, sharing a thermal blanket against the creeping cold. The shuttle's distress beacon was active, but help would take at least a day to arrive. Who would attack a diplomatic vessel? Kai wondered aloud. The risk of Imperial retaliation seems excessive. Perhaps that was the point, Ilara said quietly. Our union is politically controversial. Some would prefer it never came to pass. The implications hung between them. "You believe someone in the court arranged this?" "I've considered every possibility," she admitted, "including that Mother might be testing our compatibility under pressure." The absurdity of the suggestion brought unexpected laughter from both of them, easing the tension of their situation. "Some mothers encourage potential suitors with home-cooked meals," Kai said, still smiling. "Yours arranges survival scenarios in deadly nebulae. The Nixian way has always been thorough," Ilara replied, her own laughter subsiding into something more contemplative. In the dim emergency lighting, her bioluminescent markings created patterns across her purple skin that Kai found mesmerizing. "You're staring." "Ambassador," she noted, but without reproach. "I'm admiring," he corrected gently. "Your markings, they tell a story, don't they? Beyond just emotional states." Ilara seemed surprised by his perception. "They reflect our lineage, our achievements, our potential." She hesitated, then took his hand, placing it carefully against her forearm where the markings were most prominent. "They respond to touch as well." Under his fingertips, the patterns shifted, creating swirls of light that followed his movement. The intimacy of the moment caught them both by surprise. "In Nixian culture," she said softly, "allowing someone to interact with your markings is considered deeply personal, reserved for family and those one trusts completely." "I'm honored by your trust," Kai responded, aware of how the diplomatic phrase fell short of expressing what was developing between them. This wasn't in any of the cultural briefing materials, he added with a small smile. "Some things can't be learned from briefings," she replied, her eyes holding his. "They must be experienced." The shelter seemed suddenly smaller, the space between them charged with unspoken possibility. The nebula's light played across their features as they studied each other, seeing beyond titles and duties to the individuals beneath. "If we survive this," Ilara began, then corrected herself. "When we survive this, what happens to our tactical alliance?" "I think," Kai said carefully, "it might need reclassification." Her markings pulsed in what he now recognized as anticipation. "What would you suggest, diplomat?" Instead of answering with words, Kai slowly leaned forward, giving her every opportunity to withdraw. She remained still, her eyes never leaving his as the distance between them disappeared. Their first kiss was tentative, a question asked and answered in the gentle pressure of lips, the cautious exploration of something both familiar and utterly new. When they parted, Ilara's markings were glowing more brightly than he had ever seen. "That," she whispered, "was not in any diplomatic protocol I've studied." "Sometimes," Kai replied, gently tracing the curve of her cheek. "The most important negotiations happen without words." As the nebula continued its celestial dance outside their shelter, they talked through the night, sharing fears and hopes, differences and similarities, discovering that what had begun as an unwelcome decree might have led them to something neither had expected to find so far from home: understanding, connection, and the beginning of something that transcended the boundaries between their worlds. Forbidden Hearts. The Imperial shuttle that rescued them from the planetoid brought more than just physical salvation. As they returned to Zephyria's gleaming capital, Kai and Ilara found themselves navigating a changed landscape, both within the court and between themselves. "The investigation into the attack continues," Empress Thalara informed them during a private audience. Her penetrating gaze moved between her daughter and the human diplomat, noting their subtle proximity. "Lord Thexus believes it was the work of border mercenaries, though I find the timing convenient." "As do we, Mother," Ilara responded, her markings pulsing with controlled intensity. "Has the Genetic Compatibility Commission completed their analysis?" The Empress's expression revealed nothing, but Kai had spent enough time in diplomatic circles to recognize calculated silence. "Their findings are promising," Thalara finally said. "Though certain factions find this displeasing." "Which factions?" Kai asked, maintaining the careful deference expected in the royal presence while pressing for information. "House Varen has expressed concerns." The Empress's tone suggested this was significant. Their heir, Naxer, has long anticipated a potential match with Ilara. After the audience concluded, Kai and Ilara retreated to the relative privacy of the palace gardens. The evening air carried the scent of nocturnal blooms that opened only under Zephyria's moons. House Varen controls the largest fleet in the Empire outside the Royal Navy, Ilara explained, her voice low despite their solitude. An alliance with them would strengthen our military position significantly, but not provide access to quantum crystals, Kai noted, understanding the political calculation. Your mother weighs war preparations against technological advancement, Ilara's fingers intertwined. With his, a gesture that had become natural during their nights on the planetoid, but felt daringly intimate within palace walls. What happened in the nebula, she began carefully, was not merely a response to our situation. Kai brought her hand to his lips, a human gesture he'd shown her that made her markings ripple with pleasure. I know, he said simply, the confession hung between them an acknowledgement that whatever had begun as political maneuvering had transformed into something genuine and unexpected. The engagement ceremony is scheduled for the next full moon cycle, Ilara said. 3 days from now. If we're to discover the full truth behind Mother's decree, we must do so quickly. Their investigation led them through whispered conversations with court servants, careful review of imperial records, and clandestine meetings with Ilara's childhood nursemaid, who now served as a keeper of royal histories. It was during one such meeting, hidden in the ancient library beneath the palace, that they discovered the first concrete clue. The Empress has requested all records of the Great Conjunction, the elderly Nixian woman told them, her once vibrant purple skin now faded to lavender with age. The celestial event that occurs once every 3 centuries when all planets in our system align. The conjunction begins next month, Ilara realized. But what connection could it have to our marriage? The nursemaid's expression grew solemn. The ancient texts speak of the conjunction as a time when the barriers between dimensions thin. The royal bloodline has always been sensitive to such phenomena. That night, as they met secretly in Kai's chambers, a risk that grew more necessary and more dangerous with each passing day, Ilara shared a truth she had never revealed to any outsider. The royal bloodline carries abilities beyond our bioluminescence, she explained, seated at the edge of his bed. During celestial events of significance, some of us can perceive possibilities, glimpses of potential futures. Kai absorbed this information, connecting it to the Empress's insistence on genetic compatibility. Your mother has seen something in our potential union. I believe so. Ilara's markings pulsed with vulnerability. The question remains whether we allow ourselves to be guided by her vision. Their conversation might have continued, but a sharp knock at the chamber door startled them both. Before they could react, the door swung open, revealing Naxor Varen, tall even for a Nixian, his muscular frame adorned with military decorations, his markings flashing with undisguised rage. So the rumors are true, he said, voice dangerously quiet. The princess dishonors herself with a human before any formal union. 2 imperial guards stood behind him, their expressions professionally blank despite the compromising scene before them. Your presence in the ambassador's private chambers is unwarranted. Naxor, Ilara said, rising to her feet with royal composure. As is yours. Princess, his eyes narrowed. The ancient laws are clear. If I challenge the suitability of your chosen consort, he must prove his worth according to our traditions. Kai stood, placing himself slightly ahead of Ilara. I'm familiar with the tradition of challenge, he said, surprising the Nixian noble. As ambassador, I've studied all major cultural protocols. Then you know you have no right to refuse. Naxor's smile held no warmth. Tomorrow at dawn in the trial arena. Unless, of course, humans lack the courage to defend their choices. After he departed with the guards, Ilara turned to Kai with genuine concern. You cannot accept his challenge. The trial of ascension was designed for Nixian physiology. No human has ever been chosen to marry a Nixian princess either, Kai interrupted gently. I've faced worse odds in diplomatic negotiations. This isn't negotiation. It's combat, both physical and mental. Her markings pulsed with distress. Naxor has trained in military arts since childhood. Kai took her hands in his. Do you trust me? The question hung between them, weighted with everything unspoken. Yes, she finally answered. Against all logic and training, I do. Then trust that I won't let politics or traditions separate us now. He drew her close, breathing in her exotic scent. Not when we've found something neither of us expected. Dawn broke over the trial arena, an ancient amphitheater carved from a single massive crystal that amplified every sound and refracted light in disorienting patterns. Court officials and nobles filled the tiered seating, while Empress Thalara observed from an elevated royal box. The atmosphere crackled with tension and curiosity. Many had come simply to witness a human's inevitable failure. Kai entered wearing the light ceremonial armor provided by protocol, designed for Nixian proportions and sitting awkwardly on his human frame. Across the arena, Naxor looked imposing in military-grade protection, his markings pulsing with confident aggression. "The trial of ascension has 3 phases," announced the officiant. "The challenge of body, the challenge of mind, and the challenge of spirit. Victory requires success in 2. The challenge of body began immediately, a combat trial using traditional staff weapons tipped with energy projectors. Kai's diplomatic training had included basic self-defense, but nothing that prepared him for Nixian battle techniques. Naxor attacked with ferocious precision, driving Kai backward across the crystalline floor. Each impact of their weapons sent resonating tones through the arena. The crowd's excitement grew as Kai narrowly avoided strikes that would have incapacitated him instantly. "You fight well, for a human," Naxor taunted during a momentary pause, "but you cannot match generations of warrior breeding." What Kai lacked in strength and training, however, he compensated for with observation and adaptation. After enduring Naxor's initial onslaught, he began to recognize patterns in the Nixian's technique, moments of vulnerability when aggression overextended his reach. When Kai finally counterattacked, the move was so unexpected that Naxor hesitated fractionally. It was enough. The human diplomat executed a sweeping strike that knocked his opponent off balance, following with a precise blow to the ceremonial target point on Naxor's armor. Silence fell over the arena, broken only by the crystalline hum of the energy weapons powering down. No one had anticipated a human victory in physical combat. "The challenge of body is complete," declared the officiant. "The human challenger prevails." Ilara's markings pulsed with undisguised pride from her position near her mother. The Empress's expression remained neutral, though something like satisfaction flickered in her eyes. The challenge of mind proved more difficult. Presented with an ancient Nixian puzzle sphere, a device that reconfigured itself based on the user's thought patterns, Kai struggled to understand its alien logic. Naxor, having trained with similar devices since childhood, completed his configuration with practiced ease. "The challenge of mind is complete," announced the officiant. "The Imperial challenger prevails. With the trial balanced at 1 victory each, the final challenge would determine everything." The challenge of spirit was the most mysterious, and the most deeply rooted in Nixian culture. Both competitors were led to opposite sides of a reflective pool at the arena's center. The liquid within was not water, but something that shimmered with an inner light. "The pool of truth reflects what lies within," the officiant explained. "Each challenger must state his purpose in seeking union with the royal house. The pool will reveal the truth of his heart." Naxor stepped forward first, his voice ringing with conviction. "I seek union with Princess Ilara to strengthen the empire, to continue our pure bloodline, and to fulfill my house's destiny of leadership." The pool's surface rippled, forming patterns that the court interpreter translated. Ambition, power, desire for status. The reflection was accurate, if unflattering. Then it was Kai's turn. He approached the pool, feeling the weight of alien traditions and expectations. What had begun as a diplomatic assignment had become something far more personal, something he had never anticipated when arriving on Zephyria. "I seek union with Princess Ilara," he began, then paused, letting diplomatic training fall away. "Because in her, I have found someone who challenges and completes me, someone whose differences from me are not barriers but gateways to new understanding. Our worlds have much to offer each other, but what she and I could build together transcends political alliance." The pool's surface became still, then erupted in a luminescence so bright that many in the audience shielded their eyes. When the light subsided, the patterns formed a single word in the ancient Nixian script. The court interpreter appeared stunned. "Love," she translated simply. Murmurs swept through the arena as Kai looked up, finding Ilara's gaze across the distance. Her markings pulsed in a pattern he had come to recognize, one she had never displayed in public before. The challenge of spirit is complete, the officiant declared. The human challenger prevails. By ancient law, his claim to the princess's hand stands unchallenged. As the crowd erupted in a mixture of shock, approval, and dissent, Kai caught sight of Empress Thalara. For the first time since his arrival, she smiled openly, as if everything had proceeded according to some plan only she fully understood. Part 5. Beyond the Stars. The night before the formal engagement ceremony, Kai found himself summoned to the Empress's private observatory. The circular chamber at the palace's highest tower offered an uninterrupted view of Zephyria's star-filled sky, currently dominated by the planetary alignment that heralded the approaching Great Conjunction. Empress Thalara stood alone by the massive telescope, her regal profile silhouetted against the cosmic panorama. Without turning, she spoke as Kai entered. "Ambassador, or perhaps I should say Prince Consort-to-be, do you believe in destiny?" The question seemed unlike the pragmatic ruler he had come to know over the past cycle. Kai approached carefully, maintaining the proper distance of respect. "I believe our choices shape our future, Your Majesty," he answered, though sometimes forces beyond our understanding influence those choices. A diplomatic response. Now she turned, studying him with eyes that seemed to hold the same depth as the starfield behind her. "Yet I sense genuine conviction behind your words. You've surprised many at court, myself included in some ways. May I ask a direct question, Your Majesty?" Her markings pulsed with amusement. "You've earned that right, I believe. Why did you really choose me for your daughter? The truth, not the political justification." For a moment, he thought she might dismiss the question. Instead, she gestured toward the telescope. "Look," she commanded. Kai bent to the eyepiece, finding it focused on a distant star system, unfamiliar to him, yet somehow rendered in extraordinary detail. "What you're seeing," the Empress explained, "is the Earth system, as it appears during the Great Conjunction, when our abilities to perceive across dimensions are strongest." "This is impossible," Kai murmured, straightening. "Even with advanced technology, Earth is too distant to view with this clarity." "For technology, yes." The Empress's markings pulsed with an ancient rhythm. "But as Ilara may have told you, the royal bloodline carries certain sensitivities. During the last conjunction, I glimpsed possibilities, branching futures for our empire. In most, we faced decline, war, or stagnation." She moved to a crystalline cabinet and withdrew what appeared to be a journal bound in iridescent material. "But in one future, one singular path, I saw prosperity and evolution beyond anything in our history. That future began with a human diplomat named Kai Novak joining our bloodline." The revelation left Kai momentarily speechless. "You've known my name for 3 centuries? "Time flows differently across dimensional barriers," she said simply. "I knew a union would come. When your diplomatic mission was announced, I recognized the name immediately." "And Ilara, did she factor into your visions?" The Empress's expression softened. "My daughter's happiness was always my primary concern, regardless of imperial needs. In the vision that showed our greatest future, she stood beside a human, their union creating bridges between worlds. What I could not foresee was whether that union would be political convenience or something deeper." She closed the journal. "The pool of truth provided that answer yesterday." Before Kai could respond, the observatory door opened to admit Ilara, her expression transitioning from concern to confusion upon finding them in apparently peaceful conversation. "Mother, I received your summons, but I didn't expect to find your betrothed receiving the truth." The Empress smiled. It seemed time for transparency given tomorrow's ceremony. Ilara approached cautiously. "You've told him about the vision?" "She has," Kai confirmed, extending his hand to Ilara, who took it without hesitation, a gesture that would have been unthinkable weeks earlier. "Then you understand why I arranged this match," the Empress said. "Though I admit the attack in the nebula was not part of my design. Lord Thexus has confirmed it was orchestrated by elements within House Varen, hoping to eliminate the human suitor before formal engagement. They will face imperial justice." "And Naxor?" Ilara asked. "Claims no knowledge of the plot. His challenge was legal if ill-advised." The Empress moved toward the door. "I will leave you both to discuss what you've learned. The ceremony begins at first light." After she departed, silence filled the observatory. Alara's markings pulsed with complex emotions as she processed her mother's revelations. "How do you feel?" she finally asked. Knowing our meeting was orchestrated by a 3-century-old vision, Kai considered the question carefully. The vision may have brought us together, but it didn't create what's grown between us. That happened despite politics and prophecy, not because of it. He drew her closer, their foreheads touching in the intimate gesture they had discovered during their time stranded together. "The question is how you feel, knowing your mother saw your future partner before you were born." "Strangely liberated," Alara admitted. "I've spent my life preparing to make the perfect political match for the Empire's benefit. Instead, I found..." Her markings pulsed with emotion too complex for words. "Found what?" Kai prompted gently. "Someone who sees me. Not just the princess, not just a Nixian, but me." She pressed her palm against his chest, feeling his human heartbeat. "Someone whose differences from me make us stronger together, not weaker." Kai smiled. "Sounds like the makings of a decent diplomatic arrangement." Her laughter filled the observatory, uninhibited in a way he had never heard from her in the palace. "Is that what humans call it?" "On Zephyria, I believe the term translates as love." The word hung between them, both familiar and new, like everything in their unlikely relationship. "I believe," Kai said softly, "that term transcends translation." The engagement ceremony the following morning blended ancient Nixian traditions with thoughtful accommodations for human customs. The court gathered in the Grand Crystal Hall, where the alignment of planets was visible through the transparent ceiling. Representatives from Earth's interplanetary alliance had arrived overnight, hastily dispatched once news of the impending union reached human space. As Kai and Alara completed the ritual exchange of promises, her hand leaving luminescent patterns on his palm that would fade but never completely disappear, he caught sight of the Empress. Her expression held the satisfaction of a vision fulfilled, but also the simple joy of a mother witnessing her daughter's happiness. The reception that followed brought together dignitaries from both worlds, creating the first true cultural exchange between humans and Nixians on equal footing. The quantum crystal trade agreement was signed as a wedding gift from the Empress, the first of many bridges to be built between their civilizations. "Ambassador Chen looks thoroughly confused," Alara noted with amusement, observing the newly arrived human diplomat attempting to navigate Nixian greeting customs. "Perhaps you should rescue her before she accidentally proposes marriage to the Imperial Chamberlain." Kai smiled. "In time. Let her experience the same cultural immersion I did, though hopefully with fewer assassination attempts and trial by combat." "You handled those rather well for a human," she teased, her markings pulsing with affection. "High praise from my princess," he returned, still marveling at how natural it felt to claim that connection. As the celebration continued around them, they stepped onto a balcony overlooking the capital. The first signs of the Great Conjunction were visible in the daylight sky, planets aligning in cosmic harmony that occurred once every 3 centuries. "What do you think your mother saw?" Kai asked, his arm around Alara's waist. "In the future that begins with us?" Alara's gaze moved from the sky to the gathering inside, where humans and Nixians cautiously but earnestly began building understanding. Perhaps not just our union, but what it represents. 2 species discovering they're stronger together than apart. "A diplomat couldn't have said it better," Kai observed. "I've had an excellent teacher." She turned to face him fully. "Though there's one human custom we haven't properly observed yet." "And what might that be?" "I believe it's called a kiss," she said, her markings pulsing with anticipation. "A proper one, without survival uncertainty or combat trials looming over us." As their lips met beneath the aligning planets, Kai thought about the journey that had brought them to this moment. From reluctant diplomatic pawns to partners building a bridge between worlds. Whatever future the Empress had glimpsed across the dimensions, he and Alara would shape it together, one choice at a time. Behind them, the Great Conjunction began its celestial dance, stars and planets aligning to open pathways between possibilities. But the most important connection had already been formed, not by cosmic forces or political decrees, but by 2 beings from different worlds who discovered that the greatest adventures begin when hearts align across the stars.